Hello everybody, earlier in the year my good friend Anthony, who's currently behind the camera here at JayEmm Friends, borrowed my Ferrari F12 for a few days to run a couple of errands, notably picking the car up from Whoops Wheel Fix It after I made a mess of one of the alloys, and he made a couple of videos with the car too, one of which featured one of my Roadster meets. Now, one of the best things about these events for me is getting to meet all of you lovely people and the cars that you drive, and what a variety there is. However, on that day, Anthony and Damani did pick a favourite, and it happened to be the same for both of them, a gorgeous Volcano Red McLaren 12C Spider that just so happens to be owned by my good friend Michael. When their video came out, Michael got in touch and said, well, if they like it that much, do they fancy driving it? Though many people associate me with dissing McLaren, I think when it comes to their cars, the opposite is actually true. I've enjoyed pretty much every single one that I've driven. Say what you like about the cars or the company, you cannot deny that in the early 2010s, the arrival of the 12C was a disruptive force in the supercar scene, much like the Lamborghini Gallardo 10 years before it and the Honda NSX 10 years before that. I thought it would be fascinating to see Anthony and Damani's opinion on this landmark supercar a decade after its launch.
We have a very special car with us today, the McLaren 12C in this absolutely stunning Volcano Red. And yeah, we both fell for it, didn't we?
Absolutely gorgeous car. We've both loved McLarens for a long time, especially the 12C, and it's been a bit of a dream of mine. Yeah, pretty amazing moment.
So Michael, thank you very much for lending us the car.
I've got one of those really weird things where I wouldn't choose this colour, but I think it's the best colour you could get in this car. I like boring colours, but I genuinely think that is the best colour you can get for this car.
The design of this particular car seems to have gotten better looking with age. A bit like a fine red wine, much like its colour. I think this is going to be a modern classic if it isn't one already. It's got very elegant lines. It's a very important car in McLaren's history because it was their first sort of mass production road car. This, of course, is the Spider, and we've already got the roof down because it's such a beautiful sunny day.
One thing I love about the McLarens is with their convertibles and their Spiders, it's the hardtop convertible, so when it goes up and down, it looks good either way. It's a really, really good looking car, and I'm really looking forward to actually getting out and seeing what it's like.
So with this particular one, the spec is great. The thing that we noticed most off right from the outset was how great the interior looks. This is the perfect blend of Alcantara and leather. It is in almost brand new condition, so the owner has clearly taken very, very good care of this particular car. And on the exterior, it's got the carbon fiber intake blades.
Obviously, the active rear wing that we can't ignore. And the main thing, the doors! They go up, look at them. The only thing is though, I'm not sure where in the UK you could park because spaces in the UK are really tight and that goes really far out from the side of the car. I'd be really scared anytime I parked it, really.
I suppose it's not something that you would necessarily want to take to your local supermarket to do your shopping, especially in UK parking spaces. The price you pay for having doors that go up is that you have to kind of lean back to get in, and it's not the most graceful thing, but personally, I think it's worth it. And the doors, they close, have a nice soft close motion, which is nice. And when you get into the driver's seat, I've already adjusted the controls to my position, and it is a very nice driving position, I have to say. So, we are out on the roads in the 12C, and the first thing that I notice is how just immediately pointy it feels. I haven't even done anything yet. I haven't even driven in any spirited way, and you could just feel that the front just immediately wants to turn. And it turns out that he has indeed have the geometry tuned by Thorny Motorsport, not just the geometry in terms of the toe, camber, etc., but also he's had spacers added on, and apparently that transformed the stock handling of the car. Now, I haven't driven it in its stock form, so I couldn't tell you whether it's any better or worse, but I can tell you what, I like the way this car handles. The steering is nicely weighted. It feels like, and I could be wrong, but it feels like when you do go a little bit quicker, it starts to weight the steering up a little bit. For those that are interested, it's comfortable. I'm not sure what you can feel from your side.
It actually feels pretty soft right now. So if we switch that off, as the owner has it set, it's on sports handling with track power.
Something that I really do like about this car is the seating position. Just feels like I'm sitting in a proper supercar. I've got the steering at exactly the right distance, got a nice bend in my arm. I feel as though I'm sitting as low as I should be in a supercar. The steering wheel just seems to be the perfect size. I would like a little thumb lump here for me to kind of put my hands on, but you don't need it. There's a nice little sort of knurling behind the wheel that gives you some really good purchase on it. Overall, it's a really nice place to be. As soon as we stepped into it, you said, this feels special.
Yeah, the interior on this car does make you feel like you are in something very, very special.
It's got the perfect blend of Alcantara and leather. The seats have the Alcantara where you need the grip, but leather where you need things to be a bit more hard wearing. It's got this beautiful red stitching, all of the carbon. You do feel like you're in a proper supercar. And the other way in which you feel like you're in a proper supercar is the way this thing is in the corners. It just feels like it's got grip for days.
Right, so seeing as we're stuck behind a bit of traffic, why don't we put it into normal modes for the handling and for the power. And I'm assuming this is its most basic, comfortable setting. How does it feel now to drive? Any different?
I'll be honest, I'm not feeling a massive difference in the suspension. It feels a little bit softer, but not hugely. I suppose the throttle feels a little less sharp, but I'm not noticing a massive difference. But then I suppose you probably wouldn't notice that difference until you were sort of pressing on a little bit. And that's something we just cannot do right now because somebody thinks that the national speed limit is 40 miles an hour.
But that's not what we're here for.
No.
Back into sport handling, back into track power, and then let's see what she can do.
I'll tell you what, through these twisties, it just feels like it's not even trying. The response on the turning is absolutely incredible. And the way that this car is balanced, you literally feel like everything's just pivoting around you. It's almost like I'm sitting in the middle of the car. I mean, as in, you know, McLaren F1 style. It's a really, really great feeling. It's got more than enough power. It doesn't feel massively more powerful, although the 0 to 60 time on this is 2.8 seconds, around that, 2.8 official. I think we saw on fastest laps it had a 3-second 0 to 60 time, which is a little bit quicker than what I'm used to in the R8 GT. Not the fastest I've experienced, but it's up there. It's just brilliant. It just does exactly what I tell it to do. The weight transfer feels really like communicative, if that makes sense. On the track, I imagine it would be an absolute hoot.
I do have to say, from a passenger perspective, I've just been having a lot of fun watching that rear wing do all of this. I've just been looking in that side mirror and watching it. When you get on the brakes, it goes up. When you put your foot down, it goes down. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, you can't watch that because your eyes are meant to be forwards, not backwards. It's one of those supercars that I feel like anyone could get into. You don't need to be a driving god to be able to drive this.
No.
But it makes you feel like one.
Yes.
You don't need to have a racing license. You don't need anything like that. Or if you do, then you can eke out every single inch of this car.
One of the other cool things is, as it's a Spider, the design of this particular car with the sort of higher rear buttresses, I don't know what else to call them, means that the window line kind of connects the windscreen to those rear buttresses, which means I don't mind actually having the windows up, so you get rid of the buffeting. Now, you did notice earlier the buffeting wasn't that great with the windows down, right?
Yeah, when we were just cruising along, we had all the windows down and there was quite a lot of buffeting, but it's not too bad when it's like this, to be fair.
Now, in my R8 GT Spider, because the window line doesn't connect to anything at the back, it just kind of has this rounded off shape to it. I personally hate having the windows up. I just hate the way it looks. But when you're recording in the car, it's a bit of a pain because the buffeting does mess with the sound quality. But in a car like this, we can have the windows up. It won't affect my OCD, and people will still be able to hear what we're saying. Now, jumping out of a naturally aspirated V10 into a turbocharged V8, one of the biggest things that you'll notice as a difference is just the sound. I mean, this car has a stock exhaust on it as far as I'm aware, and I'm sure that it could be made a little bit louder, which would be more suited to our tastes. But I do miss the sound of the V10. What you do get instead of that is an absolutely incredible sort of turbo sound. Overall, I have to say, this is actually even slightly better than I thought it was going to be. It's so good that, for me, this or a 650S, because I hear that's even better, is on my list of cars that I might actually have to own at some point, because I'd like to spend a lot more time in this car. I don't really want to hand it back, but unfortunately, I know I have to.
But I have a question for you.
Yep.
Does it give you the fizz?
Almost. And I say almost because acceleration feels great. Turning on it, it's just phenomenal. The way that the car communicates to you is brilliant. It's way too capable for even this road. Just too capable. It needs to go on a track. But being the DCT that it is, the gear shifts just don't give me that thump. It's the sound for me. It is cool. It is cool. But this morning we drove a naturally aspirated V10 that's got a sports exhaust on it, and it was screaming. Whereas this, that's the only thing that's missing for me.
I've been really enjoying my time in it, and yeah, I think it is just a really, really good all-rounder. And especially with the way the prices have gone over the past few years, and you can pick these up from anywhere between £70,000 and £100,000, depending on the spec and the mileage. I think it's a really, really good car. I felt like from a passenger seat, obviously there's not really much you can tell from here, but it feels like a very undramatic car. It's very fast, it looks great, it's an amazing place to be on the inside. There's just very little drama to it. When you accelerate in a straight line, it's a really weird sensation because you know you're accelerating quickly and you can feel it, but there's no drama to it. It just does it so well.
Yeah. It's too good.
It's almost too good. And I almost think, because it's that good, to get that drama, you'd have to be doing very illegal things.
Yes.
But no, other than that, I think it's a brilliant car. I love how comfy it is when we're just cruising. I think it's a really good all-round car. It's got loads of luggage space as well. In the front, it's pretty massive. We have no problem fitting our bag in there. And just putting that one bag in there, comparing that to putting that in the R8, you've got like loads more room left that you could fit like overnight bags and everything. And the beautiful thing about the Spider is when the roof's up, you've got a little bit more room in where that roof would go to add a few extra bags or a few extra things that you may need to add. But yeah, I think this would be a great car for doing a Europe road trip or something along those lines.
Anyway, I want to say a huge thank you to Michael for lending us the car and for the expert insights from our young racing driver / racing instructor here. True story. So he can tell an awful lot from his seat, probably more than the average person.
So I guess all that's left to say is thank you guys for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below and let us know what supercar would you get for the £100,000 range. I think this is a really, really good competitor for an all-rounder. If it was going to be your one and only fun sports supercar, what would you get? Because this would be high on my list. And make sure you guys subscribe to see more content like this. Hit that bell icon, choose all notifications so you don't miss any of these videos. So we'll see you next time on JayEmm Friends. Bye-bye.